Hello, my name is Tammy Medlin, and I'm the local history librarian here at the Wilson County Public Library. Thank you for joining us for Rosenwald Schools. In 1912, Rosenwald, who was the head of Sears, Roebuck and Company, gave Booker T. Washington $25,000 to use for African American colleges and prep schools. Washington asked to use part of the money for elementary schools. Rosenwald agreed, but said the communities involved must match the donated funds. The first Rosenwald School was built in Alabama in 1913. Washington died 2 years later, but Rosenwald continued the program. The Julius Rosenwald Fund was officially founded in 1917 and built schools in the South until 1932. Over 700 Rosenwald schools were built in North Carolina. Halifax County had the most. Rosenwald wanted the schools he donated to meet certain criteria and standards. To facilitate this, a set of standard blueprints and recommendations was developed and published as Community School Plans Bulletin Number 3 in 1924. The communities and towns selected their school plan based on the number of teachers that would work in the school. The plans called for each teacher to have their own classroom, so a one-teacher school had one classroom, two-teacher schools, such as pictured below, had two classrooms, and so on. The two-teacher, three-teacher, and four-teacher plans were the most commonly used, but larger schools could also be built. Regardless of which plan was chosen, all Rosenwald schools contained a large number of windows, which were necessary because the schools did not have electricity, and the architects wanted to take advantage of as much natural light as possible. Each school also contained an industrial room where girls would learn cooking and sewing while boys studied agriculture and learned to use tools. Washington's philosophy was that practical skills would help African American students escape poverty. This plan gives the dimensions for each room, the number of windows, and even shows where the teacher's desk should be located. The effects of the plan were plain to see. On the left is Salem School from Anson County, and on the right is its Rosenwald replacement. The same two students were pictured in both photos. The Rosenwald Bulletin covered all aspects of school design, even outhouses. The rules stated that each school that received money from the Rosenwald Fund had to, quote, have two sanitary privies, outhouses, built on a plan approved by the State Board of Health for that particular section in which the building is erected. Final payment on the building will be withheld by the State Department of Education until the community meets this requirement, unquote. There were even suggestions on the size of the privies, basically one seat for each 15 to 20 students. Funding for Rosenwald schools came from three sources: the public, which was money from county school boards, the Rosenwald Fund, and contributions from the African community, who often donated labor and/or materials. So much of the work on the schools were done by African American carpenters and other workers. This photo shows Moser School in Alexander County being framed and sheathed. Once the school was built, it had to be painted, and Rosenwald recommended two color schemes on the outside: gray with white trim or white with gray trim. This is the scheme that appears on Pearson School number 1 in Durham County. If a school was stained rather than painted, the recommendation was nut brown. Once painted, the schools had to be furnished. The Rosenwald Fund recommended patented desks. That means the desks were actually designed to be used in a school and were not just a collection of old tables and chairs. This shows the inside of a classroom at the Johnston County Training School. This photo shows commencement at Yanceyville School in Caswell County on April 2nd, 1929. It is one of the few photos where I was able to get an exact date. It was a four-teacher school. Schools of this size often included an auditorium because both Booker T. Washington and Julius Rosenwald believed the school should serve the community 12 months to the year. In other words, other groups should be allowed to use the building when school was not in session. Quote, if there are not sufficient funds for an auditorium, 2 adjoining classrooms with movable partitions may be made to serve. And in the next slide, we'll see that this is what was done at this school. This is one of the best photos of the inside of the Rosenwald School that I was able to find. If you look towards the back, you can see a wooden outline and post that clearly show partitions have been moved and the 2 rooms opened up to allow the public in to see graduation. You can also see the walls and the inside are very light in color to allow the students and teachers to be able to see when school was in session. Rosenwald Fund suggested 2 color schemes for this. The ceiling should be cream or ivory and the walls painted light gray or a yellowish brown color called buff. The Rosenwald Fund also donated money for teacher homes. This is the plan for a 3-bedroom home, and it also includes a kitchen and a dining room. Like the schools, the homes were to have lots of windows with east-west light and were required to have sanitary privies. This is a photo of a teacher's home in Harnock County. This home cost $4,250 to build. $1,000 came from the Rosenwald Fund, $1,500 was used in public funds, and $1,750 was donated from the African American community. No teacher homes were built in Wilson. The closest one appears to have been in Nash County. By 1930, Wilson County was home to 14 Rosenwald schools. They are listed below. Barnes, Rocky Branch, Saratoga, and Stantonsburg were 3 teacher schools. All the rest of the schools were 2, except for Wilson, which was the county high school, and it had 16 rooms. It later became C.H. Darden High School. This is a photo of Holden School, which was built between 1929 and 1930. The African American community in Wilson raised $100. $2,150 came from the school board, and the Rosenwald Fund donated $500. Get a good look at the double-sashed windows. This means the windows could open at the bottom and at the top. The bottom sash pushed up and the top one pushed down. Heat rises. Lowering the top sash would allow the warm air to escape, which was a necessity in this climate. Like Holden's, Jones Hill School was built between 1929 and 1930 and was a 2-teacher school. The African American community in Wilson again donated $100. $2,500 came from the school board, and the Rosenwald Fund donated $500. Jones Hill was often the site of community events, including meetings of the home demonstration and 4-H clubs, as well as typhoid clinics and other community events. For a long time, Wilson County did not have a high school for African Americans. The county high school, which was built in 1927 to 1928, was a 16-teacher school. $73,785 came from public funds and $2,100 from the Rosenwald Fund for a total cost of $75,885. The school sat on a 5-acre lot, where lower schools sat on a 2-acre lot. This school later became C.H. Darden. The Rosenwald Fund stopped its school building program in 1932 after construction of almost 5,000 schools across the South. More than 800 of them were in North Carolina. Here are a list of resources used for this program. All photos can be found at the North Carolina State Archives in the Department of Public Instruction, School Planning section, School Photograph Files. The Community School Plans Bulletin number 3, printed by the Julius Rosenwald Fund in 1924, can be found online. The Rosenwald Schools and Black Education in North Carolina was written by Thomas W. Hanchett and appeared in the North Carolina Historical Review in October 1988. A lot of these resources can also be found online at historysouth.org/Rosenwald Home. Thank you.